Hello everyone, welcome back to Change with Dane. I'm Dane Campbell, recording this on 6 October 2025. I just want to say really quick, I apologize if you hear sounds of pounding or drilling. There's work going on in other offices here. Hope it's not too distracting, but I'm going to press forward with today's recording because I was thinking about an experience I had in life surrounding change and changing a behavior. And I just wanted to talk through that with you all in the fact that maybe there are certain elements to that story that will help you in your efforts at making changes in thought and behavior. So let's begin. Way back when I was 18 years old, maybe 19, I went to college at Utah State University, go Aggies, and I took a introduction to psychology course from Dr. Powers. He was not to be glib, but a powerhouse in the psychology department. And he taught many young people at Utah State University the very basics of psychology and about the mind and about thought. And in the course of this class, everybody was assigned a project, which was to make some sort of a concerted effort of change in your life. And he didn't so much care what you tried to change, but he had a very specific way of working with change and working with the process of choosing a behavior and then placing it on a reinforcement or extinction schedule so that you could make a lasting change in some sort of behavior. So I will tell you that living away from home amongst three other guys in our own little apartment, I had developed sort of this habit, I guess, of using rather colorful language that my mama would not have been proud of. So a lot of words that a good Mormon boy wouldn't have used had he been a good Mormon boy. And I thought, okay, let me see if I can change the behavior of swearing, and if that is something that I could put on this schedule set up by Dr. Powers and be able to actually have a lasting change in life with this particular behavior. His process was very meticulous. The first thing that you had to do was you had to count for a certain amount of time the number of times that you engaged in the behavior. So I know that this becomes a little bit of a practice in, I'm not going to say futility, but I would suggest to you that if you've thought about changing the behavior, you're going to make some small changes just by virtue of the fact that you thought about it. But I did what he asked. I counted the number of times I swore each day, and I averaged that, and that was my starting point for behavior change, putting that on a graph. Okay, so the next step that he had us do was he actually had us think about reinforcers in terms of very small things that we could do more often and sooner. and put reinforcers on a gradient so that there were really small, easy things you could do, maybe at the end of a day, at the end of 2 days, and then larger things that you would do maybe at the end of a week or the end of a month. And so these were things that you needed to be able to have access to that didn't break the bank, so to speak. I had no bank anyway. I was a starving college student. But they were things that could be extra time doing certain things, attending a concert, spending time with friends, playing more basketball. These were the things that I enjoyed when I was in college and were the things that were reinforcing to me, not to mention grabbing a Coke or a candy bar once in a while, or maybe even going to the A&W and having a root beer freeze and a burger. All of those things were on my reinforcement schedule at different levels of experience and success at working to eradicate these particular words from my vocabulary. I think he was realistic in this process that he was having all of us students do. He made sure that he reviewed each person's behavior that they wanted to change and what their plan was, so that it was something that was actually doable, that it was something that every person could engage in, every person could make the attempt, and if they had the right reinforcement schedule and followed his plan, they would see some change in behavior. So we set out on this journey, all of us, I guess, kind of together, because we're all doing the project. And to me, it was a little bit onerous in the process, because I had to count and record, and I had to keep things on a very strict schedule in terms of when you'd receive those reinforcements, and if you didn't, returning and trying again. There was a requirement for the way that you documented this process. So he was very concise on wanting to know how many behaviors before you intervened, and then get the count of the behaviors each day, at least in my case, the count of the behaviors each day that you were working on the goal of this behavior change, or eradicating swearing from my life, for lack of a better term, which is what I chose to work on. So some of these things can be very reinforcing, and I was thinking about people who are maybe a bit more analytical, to see those numbers, the numbers of times that you are or are not engaging in the behavior that you want to change, and then putting that on a graph so that you see your progress either increase if you are doing a behavior which you want to increase, or seeing the progress decreasing on a graph if you're eradicating a behavior that you don't want to do any longer. And so for some people, that is in and of itself extremely reinforcing. And so I would suggest to you that if those kinds of things are going to make the difference for you, by all means do them. For some people, that might be too much, devil in the detail kind of thing. But if it works for you, use it as a tool to help you in your effort to make some ongoing behavior change. So we did the project. I think, I don't know, I was buying a candy bar every other day if I, had stayed below some really low level threshold of colorful language. Maybe at the end of the week, I was grabbing myself a burger at the favorite place I wanted to. But as simple as those things seemed, they were things that were important to me and that I enjoyed. And so they actually became reinforcing in the process, because I had thought about it, I liked those things, and they were the things that I chose. So I did have success with this process. I would say that long term, there are certainly certain parts of my life where I have done better, and parts of my life where I have done worse in terms of using that kind of language. However, I think the process itself was super instructive and a really good thing to work through, especially as an 18-year-old just starting out in college, realizing that if you had the right structure and needed to change a certain thing, you could have some success in doing that. You know, you can do this with your thoughts as well. If there's a certain thought that you have that is particularly pernicious to you, that leaves you feeling some sort of way, that maybe leaves you feeling anxious or depressed or angry, you can actually look at the circumstances around that thought that you're having and put yourself on a schedule of figuring out how often you think about that thing and what it's doing to you, and then start to challenge the thought and not allow it to continue to leave you feeling in a way that doesn't give you peace and doesn't give you success in life. Our thoughts and behaviors can somewhat be quantified, and then we can start to find ways to either do more of the thing that would bring us greater peace or less of the thing that is not leaving us with feeling so peaceful in life. And I know that some of these things are difficult to change. I don't think I've ever said that this process is easy, but I will say that with concerted effort, most people can utilize these skills and find ways to at least reduce the intensity of the emotion, or at least reduce the duration of the emotion, or increase the likelihood that you're doing the thing that you want to do more of, or the likelihood that you'll do the thing that you want to do less of. So please don't give up on this process. Please hang tight. I did want to share with you today this little experience I had early on in college. I don't know if that's why I'm doing this as a career now, but it made a difference to me at the moment, and I saw success and change. You can too. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being here, working through this process. Please subscribe, please like, and please comment. If there is a behavior or a thought that you're working on and it's a real struggle for you, mention it in the comments. I can talk through it. I will not use your name. I will not point any fingers. But if there's something that, doesn't seem like it's fitting this process, give it a shout out. We'll talk through it. We'll see if we can make it work. Thanks again, and really appreciate your support and your watching. And I hope you have a great week. Take care.